The next flight Starship is ready to fly. We are waiting for regulatory approval.
Yeah.
It really should not be possible to build a giant rocket faster than the paper can move from one desk to another.
Elon Musk recently voiced his frustration after the FAA delayed the launch date of Starship Flight 5, calling attention to a growing challenge. Naturally, both SpaceX and Musk have expressed strong reactions to this decision, raising questions about the regulatory hurdles facing their ambitious space endeavors. On the brighter side, the Polaris Dawn mission continues to make significant progress, pushing the boundaries of space exploration without a hitch. It's been more than 3 months since Starship Flight 4 in June, and the world is still waiting for Starship to take off once again and make history. Various launch dates have been discussed, with September being a key estimate mentioned by the FAA. In an earlier episode, we even talked about an unofficially leaked date of October 3rd, but unfortunately, all of those predictions have been rendered false. In a recent update, SpaceX revealed a frustrating delay. On their homepage, they announced, "We recently received a launch license date estimate of late November from the FAA, the government agency responsible for licensing Starship flight tests. This is a more than 2-month delay to the previously communicated date of mid-September." This delay is quite shocking. What is the FAA doing? With no clear investigation into any mishaps from Flight 4, the question becomes, why the long wait? Before diving deeper into the reasons behind the delay, let's first consider what this new timeline really means. According to SpaceX, the 2-month postponement is going to severely impact their progress. In their announcement, they mentioned the Starship and Super Heavy vehicles for Flight 5 have been ready to launch since the first week of August. However, with the new November schedule, the turnaround between flights will now stretch to 5 months. This is a much longer gap than any previous Starship flights except for the period between Flight 1 and Flight 2. With no major safety investigations in sight, why has everything ground to a halt? Kelvin Coleman, an FAA official, attempted to explain the situation. Missions change. Technologies on the vehicles change, which require a modification to the license. It is the company that is pushing mission-by-mission approvals. That's what the pace is about. He also cited the FAA's heavy workload, pointing out that the rapid pace of Falcon 9 launches has stretched their resources thin, slowing the approval process for Starship. Essentially, the FAA seems to be saying that SpaceX's own speed and innovation are partly to blame for the delays. In response to this bureaucratic bottleneck, SpaceX has not held back their frustration. They made it clear that Flight 5 will be a groundbreaking event in the history of rocketry. SpaceX engineers have spent years preparing and months testing for the booster catch attempt, with technicians pouring tens of thousands of hours into building the infrastructure to maximize our chances for success, the company said. They emphasized that every test carries risks, especially when attempting something that has never been done before. Yet, while SpaceX is fully prepared to accept risks to their own hardware, they stressed that public safety remains a top priority on every flight. However, SpaceX's criticism didn't end there. In a sharp rebuke of the FAA's delay, they commented, "It's understandable that such a unique operation would require additional time to analyze from a licensing perspective. Instead of focusing resources on critical safety analysis and collaborating on rational safeguards to protect both the public and the environment, the licensing process has been repeatedly derailed by issues ranging from the frivolous to the patently absurd." According to SpaceX, some of the holdups are based on misleading reports and bad faith complaints from special interest groups, often built on faulty science. To make matters worse, SpaceX emphasized that the most recent delay, pushing the launch window to November, was not based on any new safety concerns. Instead, the setback is a result of superfluous environmental analysis. The company clearly sees these added hurdles as unnecessary, especially since their engineers and hardware have been ready for months. In addition to the homepage announcement, SpaceX took to social media, tweeting, "Starship's fully and rapidly reusable design will exponentially increase humanity's ability to access and utilize outer space. To unlock its full potential and do it rapidly enough to meet commitments to national priorities like NASA's Artemis program, starships need to fly." The tweet underlined how essential Starship is to space exploration and why these delays are so detrimental to their broader mission. It's clear that SpaceX is running out of patience with the FAA's slow approval process. Musk, as expected, has also weighed in on the issue. He shared SpaceX's tweet, adding, "Very important." In response to a tweet from journalist Christian Davenport that highlighted SpaceX's detailed frustrations, Musk replied, "Absolutely, it's ridiculous." Musk also voiced his growing concerns, stating bluntly, "We will never get humanity to Mars if this continues." His message is clear. The bureaucratic delays are threatening the grand vision of interplanetary exploration. In their update, SpaceX also addressed some of the recent controversies, such as the issue with their water-cooled steel flame deflector. This has been the subject of inaccurate reports alleging environmental pollution. SpaceX firmly rejected these claims, stating, "At no time did SpaceX operate the deflector without a permit. Again, it uses literal drinking water." They emphasized their compliance with regulations and listed the work they've done with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TSEC for short, to minimize environmental impacts. The company reiterated that the system does not spray pollutants into the environment, a fact confirmed by both TSEC and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The update went on to describe the environmental and safety measures SpaceX has taken at Starbase. The company explained that while environmental regulations serve a valuable purpose, the drawn-out licensing process is causing unreasonable delays. SpaceX noted that the FAA approved a 60-day consultation with the National Marine Fisheries Service to examine potential impacts on wildlife. However, they pointed out that this process can be reset over and over again if new questions are raised, further delaying the launch. The frustrating part, Flight 5 is scheduled for a time outside the nesting season for wildlife in the Boca Chica area, meaning any concerns should have been resolved by now. At the end of the update, SpaceX emphasized the urgent need for faster progress, not just for their own company, but for the country's broader space ambitions, particularly in relation to NASA's Artemis program. They noted, "Unfortunately, we continue to be stuck in a reality where it takes longer to do the government paperwork to license a rocket launch than it does to design and build the actual hardware. This should never happen and directly threatens America's position as the leader in space." To conclude, SpaceX promised to keep working hard to minimize their environmental impact and overcome the barriers slowing their progress. They made it clear that despite the delays and challenges, their commitment to developing Starship remains unwavering. What do you think about all this? Is it finally time for the barriers to Starship's development to be removed? If you agree, reply yes in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel for the latest updates on SpaceX's journey into the future of space exploration. Wrapping up the Starship Flight 5 update, let's shift our focus to Polaris Dawn, the mission that showcases SpaceX's dominance in space exploration. After much anticipation, Polaris Dawn successfully launched at 5:23 a.m. EDT on September 10th from Florida. The mission has been met with widespread excitement and positive reactions. Musk personally congratulated the team on their success, and SpaceX added, "Missions like Polaris Dawn help advance the development of the technologies necessary to enable a more exciting future." The mission's progress has been consistently updated by both the SpaceX and Polaris Dawn pages. At the time of this update, SpaceX announced Achievement Unlock, Apogee 1,400.7 kilometers, forward bulkhead Draco firing during burn. Elon Musk also highlighted the significance of this milestone, remarking, "Dragon astronauts are now further from Earth than any humans in over half a century." The Polaris team provided a summary of the mission's first day. After just 2 hours post-launch, the crew enjoyed their first meal in orbit and began conducting scientific research, including testing the Starlink system. Dragon also passed through the South Atlantic Anomaly, or SAA, an area where Earth's magnetic field is weaker, which requires careful monitoring of the spacecraft's systems. During the first day of the mission, the crew had their first sleep in space and prepared for upcoming burns that would raise the spacecraft's altitude. Dragon reached 1,215 kilometers on flight day 1 and was on track to achieve a 190 by 1,400 kilometer elliptical orbit by the start of flight day 2. Preparations were also underway for the spacewalk on September 12th, with the team practicing breathing protocols, pressure regulation, and bloodstream air control. Everything on Polaris Dawn is progressing smoothly, and we will keep you updated on its developments, so stay tuned for more. Reach orbit or successfully return. Those were the pivotal moments for Starship, and it's when we realized Raptor 2 had truly fulfilled its role. But with even bigger goals on the horizon, SpaceX needed something more advanced. Enter Raptor 3. This new version brings insane and unbelievable upgrades, sparking excitement about the future of rocket engines. Set to create unprecedented breakthroughs, Raptor 3 promises to push the boundaries of what's possible in space exploration. What could be next for SpaceX with this incredible engine? August was a significant month for SpaceX, with Raptor 3 emerging as a major milestone in the development of Starship. This new engine version has captured widespread attention, particularly for its innovative design and engineering. As Everyday Astronaut noted, this is absolutely absurd engineering to simplify an engine down like this. Visually, Raptor 3 is much neater and simpler, embodying Elon Musk's philosophy,
The best part is no part.
Interestingly, the new design aligns with previous hints, indicating that SpaceX has been planning this upgrade for quite some time. When revealing the first image of Raptor 3, Musk highlighted the immense effort behind its development. The amount of work required to simplify the Raptor engine, internalize secondary flow paths, and add regenerative cooling for exposed components was staggering. Simplification is something SpaceX has tackled before, transitioning from Raptor 1 to Raptor 2 by removing or integrating small and vulnerable parts. This integration demonstrates SpaceX's high level of engineering as they've managed to conceal complex systems while maintaining their functionality. One of the most notable changes is the removal of the heat shield. Musk explained, "It no longer requires a heat shield. Everything is regeneratively cooled. The heat shield previously installed to protect the engine from external impacts is no longer necessary. Instead, advanced cooling systems will manage the engine's heat during operation." In production, SpaceX continues to leverage 3D printing technology. Musk confirmed, "Many of them are 3D metal printed into the wall of the part." This technology, now a staple in the industry, has drastically improved production speed, first seen in the transition from Raptor 1 to Raptor 2. With Raptor 3, SpaceX continues to push the boundaries of what's possible in rocket engine design and production. The new upgrades have given Raptor 3 several significant advantages. But before we dive into these, please like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to grow. First, the removal and integration of sensitive parts have made the engine more reliable, reducing the risks that have plagued previous flights with the engines in Super Heavy. While there has been progress after each flight, the issues with the Raptor engine have not been fully resolved. The strong simplification in Raptor 3 aims to increase the success rate for future flights. It'd be fantastic if Raptor 3 achieves a successful debut flight. Musk mentioned in a Starbase interview that SpaceX is replacing the flanges with a welding method. While bolts, screws, and flanges make assembly and disassembly easier, they also pose risks of damage, leakage, and heat accumulation. Welding overcomes these issues, making the engine more resilient during harsh processes like liftoff or reentry. Although this method might complicate maintenance, it drives SpaceX to further refine the engine, potentially reducing the need for frequent maintenance. The upgrades also bring other advantages to Raptor 3. Musk confidently stated that it's lighter, has more thrust, and is more efficient than Raptor 2. Regarding mass, the welding method and the removal of the heat shield have allowed SpaceX to optimize the engine's weight. According to SpaceX, Raptor 1 weighed 2.08 tons. Raptor 2 was 1.63 tons, and Raptor 3 now comes in at just 1.525 tons. While the reduction isn't as dramatic as some might have expected, it's still an impressive achievement. As for thrust, last year's test of Raptor 3 shocked the world when it was tested at 269 tons of thrust. However, after Musk's recent update, we now know that Raptor 3's thrust has reached 280 tons at sea level and 306 tons in a vacuum. This increase in thrust will significantly impact the total power of Starship, a topic we'll explore further later. What excites me the most about this upgrade is how it'll revolutionize one of the key factors that has set SpaceX apart from the rest: production. Earlier, I discussed SpaceX's rapid progression from the Raptor 1 to the Raptor 2 engines. To illustrate, the production of a Raptor 1 engine initially took SpaceX around 11 days. However, with the Raptor 2, that time was reduced to just 2 days, and eventually to a remarkable 1 day per engine. This significant improvement underscores the advantages of simplification in design. When comparing these production speeds to other engines in the industry, including the Raptor 1, the difference is striking. Take Blue Origin's BE-4 engine, for example. Although the exact production time for the BE-4 is unclear, it's speculated that it could take months or even up to a year to complete one engine. In addition to the time savings, the cost per Raptor 2 engine has dropped to an astonishingly low figure, between $1 and $2 million. When scaled for mass production, this cost could decrease to as little as $200,000 per engine. However, speed alone isn't sufficient to meet SpaceX's ambitious goal of launching hundreds or even thousands of Starships per year. This is where the Raptor 3 comes in. With the simplified design I've mentioned, production rates could potentially reach dozens of engines per day, a rate typically associated with manufacturing industries, not the rocket industry. This capability will be crucial to meeting future launch demands as SpaceX aims to build and fly vast numbers of Starships annually. The simplicity of the Raptor 3 also promises to drive costs down to unprecedented levels, though it's difficult to predict just how low these costs will go once mass production begins. Another significant advantage of the Raptor 3 is its ability to enable rapid refurbishment and reflight. Musk has set an ambitious goal of turning around the Super Heavy booster within an hour and launching the Starship daily. Achieving this with the current engine version is challenging, but the streamlined design of the Raptor 3 will make refurbishment faster and more efficient. This could increase the Starship's turnaround speed to match or even surpass that of the current Falcon 9. These advancements are essential for the long-term mission of Mars colonization. Given the varying distance between Earth and Mars, launches must be precisely timed, making these missions exceptionally costly. The advantages of the Raptor 3 will be even more critical in this context. Before we get there, the Raptor 3 will play a pivotal role in SpaceX's upcoming developments, which include several key changes. SpaceX has already begun producing V2 prototypes, starting with the S-33, and more prototypes are on the way. This ramp-up in production will create a significant demand for engines. Unlike the previous version, where Starship was produced at a relatively slow pace, the new version is expected to be manufactured at an unprecedented speed, particularly with the implementation of an automated production line at the Star Factory. Just consider the goal of 25 launches per year at Starbase to grasp the scale of this demand, a demand that only the Raptor 3 can likely meet. If that's not enough to convince you, let's examine another critical aspect: total thrust. In an April presentation, Musk highlighted that the Super Heavy booster's thrust would reach 8,240 tons, with the Starship adding another 1,600 tons. This far exceeds the limits of the Raptor 2. With these new thrust parameters, Starship V2 is projected to achieve a maximum liftoff thrust of 9,240 tons, or 20.4 million pounds, surpassing any rocket currently in the industry. I'm eager to see this in action in the near future. However, Raptor 3 may also serve as an intermediary step toward an even more powerful engine. Musk has hinted that future Raptor versions could achieve a thrust of 330 tons, potentially pushing the Super Heavy's liftoff thrust beyond 10,000 tons, or over 24 million pounds. These aren't just concepts, they are integral to the plans for Starship Florida or Starship Starbase. Such advancements would not only surpass all current rockets, but also any that have existed in the past or are planned for the near future. More than anything, the Raptor 3 is poised to usher in a new era for SpaceX. This is the moment when traditional concepts of rockets and engines will be redefined. Imagine an engine that is lighter yet more powerful, simpler, faster to produce, cheaper, and more reliable. What could be better than that? While it's impossible to predict how many more versions of Starship or Raptor will emerge, for now, let's embrace the groundbreaking moments that the Raptor 3 will bring in the near future. Are you ready for this? Finally, after much frustration, Starliner has successfully undocked from the ISS and returned to Earth. But what's next? Despite this milestone, questions remain about its future as Boeing and NASA face ongoing challenges. Meanwhile, Blue Origin's New Glenn is facing schedule and reliability concerns, leading to more delays. In contrast, SpaceX continues to dominate, recently completing another mission under its USSF contract, further proving its superiority in commercial spaceflight. On September 6th at 6:04 p.m., Starliner, widely regarded as the biggest disappointment of the U.S. space industry this year, finally undocked from the ISS after months of delay. There were concerns about the thrusters during the undocking process, but both Boeing and NASA confirmed that the procedure went smoothly. Boeing shared on X, Starliner undocked from Space Station at 6:04 p.m. ET, landing at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico is scheduled for just after 12 a.m. Eastern on September 7th. NASA echoed this sentiment, sharing the undocking video and confirming Starliner has undocked from the space station and will begin its journey back to Earth. NASA and Boeing are targeting approximately 12 a.m. Eastern September 7th for the landing and conclusion of the crew flight test mission at the White Sands Space Harbor, New Mexico landing site. With the undocking step completed, Starliner continued its return journey, successfully passing critical phases such as exiting the approach ellipsoid of the space station, deorbit pole, deorbit burn, service module jettison, reach engine interface, forward heat shield jettison, deploy parachutes, and finally deploying the airbag. At around 12:01 a.m. EDT on September 7th, Boeing confirmed that Starliner touched down and landed safely at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico. This marked the official end of Starliner's crew flight test, or CFT-1. Boeing and NASA will now bring the spacecraft back for evaluation, focusing on issues such as thruster problems and helium leaks. We'll continue to update you as more details emerge. Reactions to the landing were mixed but mostly positive. NASA flight controller Rick Henfling said,
"Yeah, it was a good landing. It's pretty awesome."
Former astronaut Garrett Reisman commented, "I think they did make the right call in this circumstance. I think all those engineers who made the call, if you asked them to wager on what would happen right now, they would have bet that we would have what we're seeing here, which is a fairly successful entry so far." Boeing's Lauren Brennick said,
Starliner has once again proven herself a safe ride to and from space.
Despite this relief, Starliner's future remains uncertain. Many, including NASA, were eager for Starliner to leave the ISS as soon as possible, likely to avoid further risks and impacts on the space station's schedule. Starliner 1 has already been delayed until at least the second half of 2025, and further delays are possible if additional issues are uncovered. This ongoing saga continues to damage Boeing's reputation. Elon Musk previously stated, "The world doesn't need another capsule. What matters is fully reusable rockets and spacecraft." He also criticized Boeing's leadership, tweeting, "The CEO of an aircraft company should know how to design aircraft, not spreadsheets. And too many non-technical managers at Boeing." Adding to this irony, Starliner astronauts will now return to Earth aboard SpaceX's Dragon capsule. Musk once mentioned, "Hardly anyone knows that there was a massive effort to block SpaceX from providing astronaut transport for NASA. Yet, despite these past challenges, NASA and Boeing have had to turn to SpaceX to support their missions." In the end, Starliner successfully returned, saving some reputation for Boeing, but significant challenges remain. We'll have to wait and see what the future holds for this spacecraft. Like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on the Starliner saga and SpaceX's development journey. Next, let's dive into the latest updates regarding Blue Origin's New Glenn schedule. Initially, the debut flight of New Glenn was slated for October 13th, where it was set to launch NASA's Mars spacecraft Escapade. However, in a recent update, NASA announced NASA's Escapade, or Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorers mission, is now targeting a launch in 2025. NASA explained their concerns, stating that they were uncertain whether the New Glenn rocket would be ready in time for the mission. The decision was made now because NASA would soon need to load the spacecraft with hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide, chemicals that cannot be easily removed once loaded. According to NASA, the decision was made to avoid significant cost, schedule, and technical challenges associated with potentially removing fuel from the spacecraft in the event of a launch delay, which could be caused by a number of factors. Blue Origin responded in support of NASA's decision, saying, "We're supportive of NASA's decision to target the Escapade mission for no earlier than spring of 2025 and look forward to the flight." The company also revealed their updated plans for New Glenn, announcing, "We plan to move up New Glenn's second flight, originally scheduled for December, into November. New Glenn will carry Blue Ring technology and mark our first National Security Space Launch Certification flight. We'll provide more details on these launch plans in the coming weeks." With these changes, the schedule for New Glenn's flights has shifted. Originally, the rocket's first flight was supposed to take place in October with NASA's Mars spacecraft as its payload, followed by a second flight in December with Blue Ring, a platform offering end-to-end services such as hosting, transportation, refueling, and in-space cloud computing capabilities. However, the second flight will now become the first, moving up to November, while the Mars mission has been pushed to early next year. This change reduces the risk risk to NASA's critical mission and allows New Glenn to achieve National Security Space Launch or NSSL certification more quickly. Certification is key for Blue Origin, enabling them to compete for high-stakes programs with NASA or the military. Recently, the company was selected to participate in the U.S. Space Force's NSSL Phase 3, and New Glenn has several upcoming missions tied to a contract for launching Kuiper satellites for Amazon. As anticipated, New Glenn has faced delays. With October fast approaching, we have yet to see key steps like engine installation, full rocket stacking, or tests such as static fire and wet dress rehearsals. It seems unlikely that these steps can be completed in time, and the updated schedule provides Blue Origin with more time to prepare the new payload. However, this is also a huge blow to their overall schedule, delaying them by at least 1 month for the first flight and 2 months for the second, which puts them at a disadvantage compared to competitors like SpaceX, which has maintained a steady launch cadence. The delay of the Mars mission stems from NASA's concerns about Blue Origin's readiness and possibly reliability issues. Pushing the Mars mission to the second flight may allow NASA to assess New Glenn's performance and make adjustments if needed. Initially, NASA's trust in Blue Origin seemed strong when they assigned the Mars mission to the rocket's first flight. But this trust appears to have wavered. Looking ahead, Blue Origin's ability to meet its new schedule remains uncertain. There have been already setbacks, such as the recent failure of New Glenn's second stage during transportation and testing. Remember, Mars mission windows are separated by 26 months, so any further issues could cause significant delays. Blue Origin has shown strong determination this year by conducting various tests, showcasing hardware, and releasing their drone ship, but their road to orbit and their ability to compete with established players like SpaceX remains a challenging one. Let's wait and see what Blue Origin does next. Finally, let's discuss the recent progress of the Falcon 9 rocket. On September 5th, SpaceX successfully launched a Falcon 9 from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, lifting off at 11:20 p.m. EDT. The mission's goal was to deliver a batch of next-generation spy satellites into orbit for the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO for short. This mission, known as NROL-113, is part of the U.S. Space Force's National Security Space Launch Program, or NSSL, an essential contract for SpaceX. At around 8.5 minutes after liftoff, booster B-1063 landed softly on the deck of SpaceX's drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, stationed in the Pacific Ocean. This marked the 20th successful launch and landing of this particular booster, underscoring SpaceX's remarkable ability to reuse its Falcon 9 rockets, further reducing costs and increasing efficiency. This mission exemplifies Falcon 9's consistent and impressive performance. It also highlights the pace at which SpaceX is launching missions. This particular flight was SpaceX's second mission on September 5th alone. Even more notably, it was their fourth mission in just 1 week, following the rocket's return to service after a previous landing incident. As of this launch, SpaceX has completed 86 Falcon 9 missions in 2024, putting them on the verge of surpassing last year's record of 91 launches. With current trends, the company is aiming for even more ambitious targets, potentially reaching 148 flights in a single year, a staggering number for the space industry. More importantly, this successful launch is a significant achievement for SpaceX under the USSF's NSSL contract. With each mission, SpaceX continues to cement itself as the most reliable and efficient partner for the US government. This contrasts sharply with United Launch Alliance, one of SpaceX's key competitors under the same contract, which has struggled to keep up due to a growing backlog of missions. SpaceX's ability to perform at this high level not only reinforces its dominance in the commercial space industry, but also demonstrates its growing importance in national security missions. With a string of successful launches and a relentless pace, SpaceX continues to raise the bar, leaving competitors scrambling to keep up. It'll be fascinating to see how SpaceX builds on this momentum and continues to push the boundaries of space exploration and satellite deployment in the months ahead. Remarkable developments are unfolding. SpaceX is reportedly working to recover components of Booster 11, which splashed down into the sea following Starship Flight 4. This recovery effort could provide crucial insights into the mission. Meanwhile, SpaceX continues to enhance its system in preparation for the upcoming booster catching operations. In other industry news, Blue Origin has introduced its drone ship, signaling a direct challenge to SpaceX's lead in landing technology. And finally, stay tuned for the anticipated return of Boeing's Starliner, which is set to make its next move soon. It has been 3 months since Flight 4, and while both stages successfully returned without significant issues, the attention surrounding the flight has faded. However, recent information suggests we may soon learn more about this mission, particularly regarding the B-11 landing. A source on X hinted at new developments. A document has surfaced detailing vessel arrival times, and one vessel, the MV Haas Ridgewind, arrived on the 4th of September, noted for 2 pickup diver service. Its route appears close to the previous landing area of Booster 11, and images suggest it may be involved in the recovery of B-11 debris, though the images are unclear. This marks a positive development. SpaceX has not previously recovered super heavy parts from the Gulf of Mexico, but if they succeed with B-11, it will provide valuable data for analyzing the flight and making necessary upgrades. Although information is still limited, we will continue to monitor this situation and provide updates as more details emerge. I'm sure many of you, like me, are eager to see the return of B-11's components. If you are, comment 11 below. As SpaceX looks ahead, they must focus not only on the launch vehicle, but also on the launch system. While vehicle preparations are underway, significant attention has been given to upgrading the chopstick system. In August, SpaceX conducted numerous tests, including closing, opening, rotating, lifting, and lowering the chopsticks, alongside replacing or upgrading several components. The chopsticks were also tested with the B14.1 prototype, which has since returned to production. As we move into September, work on the chopstick system and the launch tower continues at a fast pace. SpaceX recently activated the lifting pins on the chopsticks following important modifications, and tests with the updated system are ongoing. Additionally, the Booster Quick Disconnect, or QD, is undergoing testing after the addition of a new burn plate. Throughout August, SpaceX also upgraded the chopsticks landing rail system, added cladding to the tower, and replaced the old bumper system with new ones. With these upgrades nearly complete, September will focus on testing the system's reliability ahead of catching operations. There's also potential for a simulated catch test using the B14.1, which remains at Rocket Garden and could return to the launch pad for this purpose. These efforts are crucial as they are tied to the hardware testing schedule. NASA has projected a launch no earlier than September 22nd, though it could be later. Regardless, preparations need to be completed soon, including wet dress rehearsal tests and other critical tasks at the launch pad. The chopstick system will be integral to these operations, handling multiple stacking and destacking tasks. There is much to be done before Flight 5, a mission that will undoubtedly set new milestones for SpaceX, and we hope you'll continue supporting the team during this important phase by leaving a 5 in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on SpaceX's ongoing developments. In addition to SpaceX, Blue Origin has made a significant advancement as it prepares for its upcoming debut mission. The company has moved its new drone ship to Port Canaveral, a step that has been recently highlighted on Blue Origin's X page. In their latest update, they announced Welcome Home Jacqueline. This sea-based landing platform is where New Glenn's reusable booster will return home again and again after each mission to quickly refurbish for its next flight. This marks a clear commitment from Blue Origin to focus on reusability, a cornerstone of modern rocketry. Prior tests with New Glenn's aft section landing leg have already hinted at the company's expectations for the debut mission. Blue Origin's CEO Dave Limp shared on X, "We hope to stick the landing on our first New Glenn launch, but if we're not successful, we'll learn and keep trying until we do." To further illustrate the scale of this challenge, Limp noted Jacqueline's landing pad is the same size as New Shepard's 200 feet in diameter. However, New Glenn's booster is 188 feet tall with 7 engines compared to New Shepard's 54 feet and single engine. The physics here are key. It's easier to balance a broom on your palm than a pencil because the broom has a higher center of mass. You'll also notice there's no bridge on Jacqueline. That's because no humans are on board during landing. For a debut flight, attempting a landing on a drone ship is an ambitious move. Even SpaceX, which has since perfected the technique, took several years to achieve this after the Falcon 9's initial launch. This demonstrates the drive of Jeff Bezos and his team to make rapid progress in rocket reusability and to compete directly with SpaceX. However, this endeavor is not without its risks. Limp's statements suggest some uncertainty around achieving a successful landing on the first attempt. Moreover, New Glenn has faced a series of recent challenges, casting doubts over its readiness for orbital flights. As for progress, Blue Origin has made strides in assembling the rocket. The first stage of New Glenn was vertically erected at Port Canaveral in early August, and the second stage has been placed on a test stand. The company is currently preparing to test the BE-3U engine for this stage. With all the hardware now in place, including the first stage, second stage, and payload, the next major milestone is the long-awaited arrival of the 7 BE-4 engines, following multiple delays. Now, we'd like to remind you of another significant event happening this week, the return of Boeing's Starliner. As previously reported, the uncrewed Starliner is scheduled to undock from the International Space Station, or the ISS, on September 6th. The undocking is set for 6:04 a.m. EDT with a deorbit burn planned for 11:17 p.m. EDT. If all goes according to schedule, the crew capsule will touch down at White Sands Space Harbor, New Mexico, at 12:03 a.m. EDT on September 7th. This mission is critical for both Boeing and NASA, especially given the challenges Starliner has faced over the years. From software issues to valve malfunctions, the spacecraft has been plagued with setbacks, causing multiple delays in its timeline. A successful landing this week would be a crucial step in demonstrating the spacecraft's reliability and could pave the way for future crewed missions. NASA and Boeing are hopeful that this mission will provide the data needed to validate Starliner's systems for further testing, but there remains a level of uncertainty given its troubled history. If the landing goes smoothly, it could significantly bolster Boeing's confidence and strengthen NASA's partnership with the aerospace company moving forward. As for the two astronauts originally slated to fly aboard Starliner, their mission has been postponed yet again. They are expected to remain on the ISS until next year. In the meantime, SpaceX's Crew 9 mission will continue, with NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov scheduled to suit up in SpaceX's spacesuits for the next journey. The issues surrounding Starliner have been a topic of frequent discussion. Now, we wait to see how Boeing and NASA address the remaining challenges and whether this landing will finally mark a turning point in Starliner's troubled journey. Be sure to stay tuned to our channel for real-time updates on this important mission. To wrap up this episode, let's shift our focus to Europe and discuss the European Space Agency's, or ESA's, preparations for the Vega rocket's final mission. On September 4th, the original version of Europe's Vega rocket successfully completed its final flight, placing an Earth observation satellite into orbit. The launch took place from the European spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana at 9:50 p.m. EDT. Originally scheduled for the previous day, the launch was delayed due to an electrical issue with the ground systems that halted the countdown just hours before liftoff. The payload, the Sentinel-2C satellite, was successfully deployed into sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude approximately 775 kilometers, about an hour after liftoff. Sentinel-2C will play a key role in Earth observation, continuing the work of its predecessors by providing high-resolution imagery to support environmental monitoring, agriculture, and disaster relief efforts. This marked the 22nd and final flight of the original Vega rocket, which made its debut in 2012. The vehicle had a stellar record until its 15th launch in July of 2019, when problems began to emerge. Despite these issues, the Vega program contributed significantly to Europe's space capabilities, offering a reliable option for small to medium payloads. The Vega is now being phased out in favor of the more advanced and powerful Vega C, which first launched in July of 2022. However, the second launch of Vega C in December of 2022 ended in failure, casting doubts over its readiness. ESA is planning on an upcoming test, and if successful, Vega C could return to flight by late November. If all goes well, ESA aims to ramp up launches, with 4 scheduled for 2025 and 5 in 2026 and beyond. While these plans are promising, ESA faces a broader challenge. The stagnation seen in both the Vega family and the Ariane 6 rocket program has raised questions about the future of Europe's role in space exploration and commercial launches. The once glorious days of ESA's rockets leading in innovation and reliability seem to be at risk, with increasing competition from other players like SpaceX and Blue Origin. The question remains, can ESA regain its former prominence with the next generation of rockets, or will it struggle to keep pace in an industry that is rapidly evolving? What are your thoughts on ESA's future? Exciting news! A potential launch date for Starship Flight 5 has surfaced, and it makes a lot of sense. This new schedule could pave the way for something many have been eagerly anticipating for over 2 decades: a direct competition between SpaceX and Blue Origin. And no, we're not talking about legal battles this time. So, when is this new launch date? How does it make sense within the current timeline? And why could it lead to a direct showdown between SpaceX and Blue Origin? After more than a year, Starship has achieved several significant milestones. Flight 4 marked a historic moment as the world witnessed a fully returned rocket for the first time. Naturally, all eyes are now on the schedule for Flight 5, which promises to push boundaries even further, particularly with the anticipated attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster. Many details have surfaced, but recently I came across a fairly reliable and realistic timeline. An internal SpaceX source indicates the company is targeting no earlier than October 3rd for Starship Flight 5. This launch is expected to include an attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster, staying true to SpaceX's ambitious plans. Now, you might wonder why I believe this schedule is feasible. Let me break it down. First, October 3rd falls on a Thursday. This might seem like a minor detail, but it's intriguing when you consider that three of the previous 4 Starship flights, Flight 1 on April 20th, 2023, Flight 3 on March 14th of 2024, and Flight 4 on June 6th of 2024 also occurred on Thursdays. Only Flight 2, which took place on November 18th, was scheduled for a Saturday. This Thursday pattern could be a subtle nod to SpaceX's branding or symbolism. Do you think this is more than a coincidence? If so, leave a comment with Thursday below to share your thoughts. Now, if all the stars aren't aligning enough, well, let's look at the actual progress. We're currently in the first half of September, meaning there are still about 3 to 4 weeks left before the anticipated date. SpaceX is awaiting FAA approval, which has taken longer than it did for the last flight. In addition, preparations for the catching system, upgrading, and testing are still underway, as is the testing process for the flight hardware. With wet dress rehearsal being a critical step, given the recent pace of developments excluding FAA delays, 3 to 4 weeks seems like a reasonable timeline for these tasks to be completed. Moreover, NASA officials recently suggested that Flight 5 is expected to launch later this fall, with an earliest possible date of September 22nd. Given this information, an October 3rd target appears to be a sensible window, neither too early nor too late based on current estimates. In the meantime, we'll be awaiting official updates from both SpaceX and the FAA. Until then, why not make your own predictions about the Flight 5 launch date in the comments section down below? Who knows? You could be the one to accurately forecast this milestone event. And don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel to stay informed on SpaceX's exciting journey. Now, we must address an important question. Is the proposed schedule for Flight 5 a setback for Starship? Many might feel disappointed with this timeline, as it appears to be later than Elon Musk's initial estimates. If this schedule is accurate, the gap between Flight 4 and Flight 5 will stretch to 3 months and 27 days, or nearly 4 months. This stands in contrast to SpaceX's efforts to reduce turnaround times between flights. To provide context, the time between Flight 1 and Flight 2 was nearly 7 months, which SpaceX then reduced to just under 4 months between Flights 2 and 3. The gap between Flight 3 and 4 was even shorter, just under 3 months. Therefore, the gap between Flights 4 and 5 could be seen as a slowdown, reminiscent of the period late last year and early this year. In fact, comparing the exact number of days, the October 3rd schedule would make the gap between Flights 4 and 5 2 days longer than that between Flights 2 and 3, 119 days compared to 117. Statistically, this does indicate a slowdown in Starship's rapid development trajectory. However, when we consider the reasons for this delay and the potential benefits for the future, it becomes clear that this is not a setback. Firstly, as Musk has noted in previous launch predictions, the timeline is heavily dependent on FAA approval, an unpredictable factor. It's understandable that the FAA requires more time to evaluate such an unprecedented mission, especially with the planned booster catch by the Mechazilla arms. Given that there's no mishap investigation currently underway, the delay might seem puzzling, but it could very well serve a purpose. I'll address this in more detail in the next section regarding Blue Origin. Thus, the delay is not the result of any internal issues at SpaceX. Instead, it relates to external regulatory factors. Once the FAA grants approval, SpaceX will likely expedite preparations and launch, as we've witnessed with previous flights. Moreover, it's essential to look at this delay from a positive perspective. Catching a booster with the Mechazilla arms is a critical element of SpaceX's future strategy, so taking additional time to thoroughly evaluate and prepare is likely necessary. Ensuring a successful attempt on this critical mission will provide a foundation for SpaceX to dramatically reduce the time between flights in the future, potentially shortening it to under 2 months or less. Once the system proves successful, progress could accelerate faster than we can imagine. In short, this is not a setback for SpaceX. Rather, they are gaining momentum for a major leap forward. As for Flight 5, we'll have to exercise a little more patience. Everyone is eager for a successful mission that will pave the way for a transformative future. I'm confident that SpaceX will meet these expectations with another groundbreaking achievement. So, let's continue to support the SpaceX team during this pivotal period. If everything truly unfolds in October as scheduled, we are on the cusp of witnessing a long-anticipated rivalry: SpaceX versus Blue Origin. Blue Origin is currently planning to launch the debut mission for its New Glenn rocket on October 13th with the goal of delivering NASA's Mars spacecraft, Escapade, into orbit. The company has been making significant strides toward this launch throughout the year, showing strong determination. Several factors indicate that this competition is heating up. Firstly, let's talk about the timing. If both schedules for Starship and New Glenn hold as predicted, Starship could launch before New Glenn. However, there is a lingering uncertainty in this scenario that raises concerns for SpaceX. Since Blue Origin is launching a mission directly related to NASA, there's a possibility that regulatory bodies such as NASA or the FAA might delay Starship to allow New Glenn to launch first. This potential delay could be seen as a subtle favor to Blue Origin, aiming to create a more dramatic competition between the two space giants and challenge SpaceX's dominance over the last decade. Thus, the launch sequence itself becomes a pivotal factor in this burgeoning competition. Besides the actual flight outcomes, being the first to launch could carry significant symbolic value. With these new developments, you can share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who do you think will launch first, Starship Flight 5 or New Glenn 1? Another key indicator of this competition lies in Blue Origin's recent deployment of its drone ship, Jacqueline. Landing a booster on a drone ship is a hallmark of SpaceX's success over the past 10 years. Although SpaceX may not attempt this with Starship in the near future, it is a critical part of their long-term plans. The release of Blue Origin's drone ship is a clear signal of competition, suggesting that Blue Origin aims to adopt a landing strategy similar to SpaceX's groundbreaking efforts. In fact, Blue Origin's CEO Dave Limp has openly stated that they may apply this landing method during their upcoming mission. It's certainly a bold challenge. What do you think about Blue Origin taking this step? Finally, the nature of the mission itself adds another layer to this competition. New Glenn is launching a spacecraft for NASA to Mars, a destination that SpaceX has long been targeting as the ultimate goal of its Starship program. Mars is the very reason SpaceX created Starship, and this upcoming October competition can be viewed as the first real race between SpaceX and Blue Origin for dominance in the Mars exploration effort. Now, let's take a closer look at the advantages and disadvantages both companies bring to this face-off. SpaceX has a significant advantage in terms of experience. They've conducted numerous successful missions, and this will be their 5th Starship flight, giving them a wealth of data and confidence in their systems. Their team of highly skilled engineers and workers further bolsters their chances of success. However, their biggest challenge will be the booster landing phase, which is something they haven't yet attempted with Starship. In addition, they face hurdles from government agencies such as the FAA, as well as scrutiny from environmental groups, which could delay or complicate their progress. Blue Origin, on the other hand, enjoys considerable support from agencies like NASA. Though they faced years of delays, this additional time may have allowed them to thoroughly prepare for their debut mission. Their disadvantage lies in their lack of orbital experience, as New Glenn has yet to reach orbit and there are still concerns about issues with the new rocket. Nevertheless, they've had ample time to test and refine their systems. Both companies face risks and the outcome is uncertain. Many might argue that Blue Origin, with its delays and limited achievements so far, cannot compare to SpaceX in terms of accomplishments. While this may be true in terms of their respective track records, it's undeniable that Blue Origin is one of the few companies with the scale and potential to challenge SpaceX. This is why the upcoming October launches are so highly anticipated. It's a competition worth watching. For Musk and SpaceX, this mission represents a significant challenge, both because of the unprecedented objectives of Starship Flight 5 and the competition posed by Blue Origin. Yet SpaceX has been known to rise to the occasion, and a victory here would further solidify their dominance in the aerospace industry. It'd also be a fitting response to their critics, showcasing their ability to innovate and succeed under pressure. So, as SpaceX prepares for the next major leap, are you ready for what could be one of the most exciting space races in recent history? SpaceX creates a monopoly, destroys competition, and is the reason many companies can't catch a break. These are the dramatic claims floating around the aerospace industry. But is there any truth to them? Long answer short, not really. SpaceX's reign is more about NASA's fixed contracts and the occasional stumble of other companies, like Boeing with their Starliner fiasco. And no, it's not just gossip. Elon Musk himself has spilled the beans on why Starliner didn't quite hit the mark. Indeed, when mentioning NASA's fixed contracts, Boeing and Starliner come to mind as the biggest disappointments in recent years. Despite receiving almost double the funding compared to SpaceX in the Commercial Crew program, Boeing's performance has been less than stellar. Awarded the contract in 2014 and aiming for a 2017 launch, Starliner's first crew flight only took off on June 5th of this year. Those 7 years were marked by stagnation and ongoing issues with their vehicles. This not only caused significant delays for both Boeing and NASA, but also led to substantial financial losses. With just one crew flight to date, Starliner's achievements pale in comparison to what SpaceX's Dragon has accomplished. Keep in mind, that mission was a test mission, meaning Starliner has yet to receive launch certification or fulfill any of its CCP contract obligations. They've only a few years left to complete the 6 required missions. What's more embarrassing, despite a successful launch, Starliner encountered numerous problems during the test mission. To this day, NASA and Boeing have not managed to bring their spacecraft and astronauts back. Many even suggest that NASA should send Dragon to rescue the stranded Starliner astronauts. NASA chose 2 contractors for the CCP to maintain selection flexibility and avoid monopoly. However, Boeing's shortcomings have undermined NASA's strategy, leaving them reliant on SpaceX and Dragon. This situation is particularly humiliating for Boeing, a giant of last century's aerospace industry. Musk even remarked, "The CEO of an aircraft company should know how to design aircraft, not spreadsheets. I strongly believe that all managers in a technical area must be technically excellent," Musk also added. Boeing has been on a gradual decline in this century. Their systems still reflect outdated styles, no longer suitable for present times. True engineers are likely few, while bureaucracy continues to grow. On the contrary, some might think that Elon Musk knows nothing about engineering. However, a look at Everyday Astronaut's video shows otherwise, as he smoothly explains everything about Starship. With such a leader, it's clear why SpaceX leads the aerospace industry. This is just one example of why, even without preferential treatment, SpaceX continues to secure valuable contracts. In any field, competition is always crucial. In the aerospace industry, companies compete for markets and launch contracts, which drive economic benefits and enhance their positioning. As the leading aerospace agency, NASA acts as a dealer, creating projects and contracts, then selecting the most suitable contractors. For many years, NASA has focused on fixed contracts, meaning agreements with constant prices. This benefits NASA by simplifying the awarding process and avoiding future complications. With fixed contracts, contractors must deliver everything NASA requires within the agreed price. If they go over budget, those companies bear the additional costs instead of seeking extra funding from NASA. Typical examples of fixed-price contracts include the Commercial Crew Program contract, the Artemis contract, and the National Security Space Launch contract, which, although not from NASA, is quite notable. Once awarded, companies must develop their vehicles and adhere to the launch schedules set by the issuing agency. However, this contract type can make competition challenging for companies. With fixed prices, they must manage costs carefully and meet deadlines without seeking additional funding, which can be a significant hurdle. For NASA, while competition is always encouraged, the reality is that they prefer not to waste costs. They need to choose the most reliable vehicle and organization for their missions. In this regard, SpaceX stands out as a top contender, known for its high reliability and frequent successful launches. This is why SpaceX has secured numerous significant contracts that other companies covet. Beyond the major Commercial Crew Program and Artemis contracts, SpaceX has recently won several notable agreements. For instance, they secured the ISS orbit contract worth $843 million, a satellite launch contract from NASA and NOAA valued at $112.7 million, a rescue space mission research contract worth $267,000, and the USSF's NSSL Phase 3 contract totaling up to $5.6 billion. From contracts worth just a few $100,000 to multi-million and even billion-dollar deals, SpaceX consistently demonstrates its dominance. While large contracts might be expected from such a leading company, even the smaller contracts reflect significant progress for SpaceX. For smaller companies, securing these contracts would be a major breakthrough. Despite this, many companies criticize SpaceX. However, they fail to recognize that this situation stems from their own weaknesses and diminishing competitiveness. But before we get into all of that, make sure you leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel to keep up with SpaceX's development journey. You know, small companies often face significant financial challenges. A notable example is Astra Space, which experienced a severe crisis after multiple failures and was eventually forced to shift to the private sector. Another case is Sierra Space. Despite their promising Dream Chaser project, they have yet to deploy it. There are likely many other companies in similar situations. In reality, these companies still have opportunities, but they often fall short. This is evident in the NSSL contract. Initially, Phase 3 of the contract, running from 2025 to 2029, was planned to include 2 lanes. Lane 2 was designated for high-demand tasks suited for large companies like SpaceX or ULA, while Lane 1 was intended for smaller companies with simpler requirements. However, the recent announcement for Lane 1 revealed that the contract was awarded to SpaceX, ULA, and Blue Origin. The reason? No launch service provider was able to meet the requirements for Lane 1. This highlights a gap in capabilities rather than a lack of opportunity. For major companies, their performance often fails to match their potential and the opportunities they receive. This is evident not just with Boeing, as discussed earlier, but also with current giants like Blue Origin and ULA, who face significant challenges. Blue Origin, for example, has yet to launch any vehicle into orbit, leaving them at a disadvantage compared to SpaceX. Recall that in 2021, when SpaceX was awarded the Artemis contract, Blue Origin sued NASA, alleging favoritism. However, their lawsuit overlooked the fact that their lack of progress was the real reason they were not selected. Meanwhile, ULA, known for its iconic rockets like Atlas and Delta, has struggled to keep pace with newer models such as Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Their latest rocket, the Vulcan, faced significant delays and only completed its first launch mission this year. As a result, ULA has lost its primary market for launching government payloads to SpaceX. In contrast to others, SpaceX consistently demonstrates exceptional reliability. With the Falcon rocket system, SpaceX has conducted over 360 launches, boasting a high success rate. Among these, Falcon 9 has become the most frequently launched vehicle in recent years. Additionally, these rockets are capable of landing and being reused. a feat few organizations can achieve. This capability significantly reduces development and launch costs, creating formidable competition in the industry. Following the Falcon generation, SpaceX is now focused on developing Starship, a rocket with unparalleled capacity and potential, and notably, it can be fully reused. Musk envisions a future where Starship launches cost as little as $2 million, a strikingly low figure. This positions SpaceX with a significant edge in any competitive landscape. With a more reliable and cost-effective vehicle, it's clear why NASA and other companies have little reason to overlook SpaceX. In summary, the US aerospace industry is grappling with the unfortunate reality of declining competition. However, it's important to note that this situation is not directly attributable to SpaceX. The current companies are simply struggling and failing to showcase their capabilities. Instead of criticizing SpaceX, these companies should focus on reforming and enhancing their own systems. As for SpaceX, they should simply keep doing what they're doing. Their success is a direct result of their own capabilities, so there's no need for concern. They will maintain their leading position and continue to be the US's flagship in global competition. If you agree with this perspective, please respond with yes in the comment section down below. The Two Towers has come true, and now we eagerly await the return of the king. Yes, the second launch tower at Starbase has completed its stacking process in record time, once again capturing the world's attention. This milestone provides a crucial foundation for SpaceX, boosting confidence as they prepare for the next flight, where the Starship booster will be caught by the Mechazilla arm for the first time. While many challenges lie ahead, SpaceX has meticulously prepared for every possibility. The second launch tower has been the most eagerly anticipated structure at Starbase this year. On August 21st at around 7 a.m. EDT, the T-Rex crane's lifting jig connected to Module 9, the final piece of the tower. Just over an hour later, the module was lifted and welded into place, officially completing the basic structure of the tower. Now it stands tall, offering a striking view alongside the first tower nearby. To commemorate this milestone, SpaceX shared a tweet proclaiming second launch tower stacked as the newest addition to Starbase, with Elon Musk adding his own reaction, the two towers. This tweet nods to Musk's previous comment late last year, where he suggested the next stage of the Starship program should be called the Two Towers. While the FAA's schedule had set a target completion date of August 15th, meaning the project was about a week behind, it's worth noting that SpaceX managed to stack all the sections in just a month, a significant improvement over the 9 months it took to stack the first tower. And it likely won't impact the overall schedule. Phase 3 of the plan will commence from this milestone and continue until January 28th next year, focusing on building additional systems like the Mechazilla arm, the OLM, with a water-cooled steel system or flame trench system below, the tank farm system, the fuel rail, and more. With this foundation, SpaceX will push the launch cadence to new heights, initially targeting the 25 flights per year that they are aiming for. Currently, SpaceX is advancing the Star Factory, the Massey test system, and the Starship V2 launch preparations to meet that goal. More importantly, with the addition of the new launch tower, SpaceX plans to eventually catch the Starship stages in the future. This will mark the moment when SpaceX achieves full reusability of their giant rocket, a feat no other organization has accomplished. This could begin as early as Flight 6 or Flight 7. Although many steps remain, the completion of the second tower stack has laid a crucial foundation for SpaceX's future endeavors. Are you ready to enter this new phase? If so, respond with the number 1 in the comment section down below. Then be sure to like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel to continue following SpaceX's development journey. And soon enough, a significant milestone in the new era of space exploration will be set with Flight 5, where SpaceX plans to catch the Super Heavy booster using the Mechazilla arm for the first time. Currently, SpaceX is finalizing preparations for this flight, with a wet dress rehearsal test still ahead. Additionally, SpaceX is waiting for the necessary approvals from the FAA. Given the current pace of progress, I anticipate the launch could take place around mid-September. Feel free to share your own predictions about the launch date in the comment section down below. So, What can we expect from this flight? Most of the procedures will remain consistent with previous missions. SpaceX will launch Starship from Starbase, and around T plus 2 minutes 45 seconds, the separation process will occur, with the Super Heavy booster beginning its descent. Meanwhile, Starship will continue its journey into orbit to complete its tasks. At approximately T plus 45 minutes, Starship will begin its re-entry, eventually landing in the ocean, likely in the Indian Ocean, more than an hour after liftoff. While these are the basic steps, this upcoming flight will introduce two critical new elements. First, the task of igniting the engine in space may be performed with the ship. This test was skipped in the previous two flights, so it's about time. Testing the engine in space is crucial for SpaceX as they refine their vehicles and prepare them for longer missions in the future. However, the most significant change will be the attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster with the Mechazilla arm. Musk recently shared a video highlighting the process, underscoring SpaceX's commitment to this groundbreaking effort. Unlike previous flights where the Super Heavy was soft-landed in the Gulf of Mexico, this time it will return to the launch site. This maneuver will require far more complex procedures. The grid fins will need to be much more active in guiding the booster's descent. While the system has performed well in the past, this attempt will be considerably more challenging. In addition to the grid fins, the engines, particularly the gimbal engines, will play a crucial role in steering the Super Heavy and managing its deceleration. The entire descent is expected to take around 10 minutes from an altitude of more than 60 kilometers. This estimate is based on the Falcon 9's descent with some adjustments for the more complex nature of the Starship booster's landing. As the booster approaches the launch tower, the process will become increasingly intricate. The grid fins and engines will need to work in perfect harmony to guide the Super Heavy into position. The speed must be precisely controlled, neither too fast nor too slow. Most importantly, the booster needs to align perfectly with the chopstick arms. Once aligned, the chopstick arms will open, and the Super Heavy will need to move exactly into position. The arms will then slowly close around the booster, securely holding it in place. After catching the booster, the chopstick arms will adjust its position and rotate to place it back on the orbital launch mount next to the launch tower. Of course, we're talking about a process that ideally goes smoothly, but no one can guarantee that everything will unfold exactly as planned. This attempt carries significant potential risks. Firstly, the navigation process itself can be problematic since this will be the first time both the engine and grid fins will undertake such a complex task. We've seen instances in previous flights where the Super Heavy's engines experienced failures at critical moments. Such issues could cause the booster to deviate from its intended flight path. Once the flight phase is over, the approach and landing become even more challenging. If the engine or grid fins encounter problems earlier in the process, SpaceX could opt to land the booster in the ocean. However, as it nears Starbase, alternative options become scarce. The booster might not slow down in time or may fail to align perfectly with the chopstick arms. In the event of a failure, the Super Heavy could collide with the tower, the chopstick arms, or other infrastructure, potentially causing a catastrophic explosion. To make matters worse, there are numerous fuel tanks nearby which could exacerbate the situation. The flight hardware isn't the only concern. Chopstick itself could malfunction. The most critical issue would be timing. If the chopstick arms open or close too early or too late, the subsequent catching or holding step could fail, causing the booster to hit or fall off the chopstick despite operating correctly. This would lead to the same disastrous consequences mentioned earlier. Beyond the technical challenges, external factors like wind and fog could also disrupt various stages of the process. Despite these challenges, SpaceX has several reasons to be confident in this endeavor. SpaceX has prior experience landing the Super Heavy booster during the previous two flights, even though issues arose. Notably, in Flight 4, SpaceX successfully landed the booster for the first time. During that flight, SpaceX demonstrated strong navigation and deceleration capabilities which will be invaluable in this next attempt. As for the chopstick system, SpaceX has recently made numerous upgrades and conducted tests with B14.1, ensuring the ground systems are well prepared to catch the returning booster. All of these factors are built upon SpaceX's advanced technological foundation. A decade ago, the idea of a rocket landing vertically or on a drone ship in the middle of the ocean seemed impossible. Yet SpaceX achieved it and has since made it routine. While it's natural to feel concerned or skeptical about this unprecedented challenge, I hope you will support SpaceX as they continue to push the boundaries of space exploration. And once successful, we'll move on to the next ambitious target, landing both the booster and the ship. That's when the second tower will come into play. This new system, combined with the first tower, will work together to catch the entire Starship, marking the first time a rocket has been fully landed and recovered. Honestly, I've never felt more excited than I do now. The two towers and the upcoming flight will serve as the first notes in a new era for the Starship project. As time goes on, more towers and flights will join them. That's when we'll witness the return of the king, as in the king of the future aerospace industry, Starship. Well folks, that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, this has been Kevin from Great SpaceX. Until next time, keep looking up.